If you vote for me, all of your wildest dreams will come true.
Welcome, my friends, to the VFX for Motion podcast. You'll see it when you believe it.
Often I'll ask myself, well, how am I going to do this? Or I know I can do this. I told them I'm going to do it. But, when you're actually working on it, it's like, all right, I need to figure this out. And that's part of the fun of it, too, like the problem solving and kind of, pulling from your background, trying different things on it. Because, once it does work, it's very satisfying.
Although I had seen his work, I hadn't been introduced to Josh Johnson personally when we did this interview. On the VFX meets MoGraph side, you may be familiar with his work with designer David Lewandowski, but he's also built a thriving career working on some highly respected independent films, which we'll talk about. Remarkably, he doesn't live in California or even in a major market city, and we get into what set of skills and tools has allowed him to do that. Hey, this is Mark Christensen, and I'm talking with Josh Johnson. Hi, Josh.
Hello, Mark. How you doing?
Good. So we are going to talk about stuff related to the VFX business, and I'm looking forward to it. So let's dive right in.
You too.
So we're starting from the beginning here with you coming out of school with no VFX training.
That is correct.
And then evidently developing some skills. So
yep.
What's your this is like the question you get asked by your uncle over cocktails at some family get together, like, oh, did you go to school for that? So tell us about it. Tell us about that in your case.
Yeah. So I went to school kind of like at the time it was like video production. I mean, they were trying to be like a film program, which they are now, more robust. But basically in my degree, I learned like editing, some cinematography, 3-point lighting, a lot of the basic stuff, I guess, that would go into like basic video production or even like ground level kind of like film.
Yep.
So that's what I went to school with, with the idea of I want to be a filmmaker, I want to be a director, cinematography, right. I love as well, like that kind of thing. Which I do love those things, and I'm still doing those things as well now, like today. But while I was at school, I was like, well, everybody wants to do this, right? And it's already hard to break into the field. So probably like my last year there, I was like, well, I think I kind of like computer animation. I mean, I've always liked computer animation. In fact, there was this show on Discovery Channel called Movie Magic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that, like when I was a kid watching that, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Like people do that for a living. Like this is amazing. And of course, like many visual effects artists, probably my age, could speak to Jurassic Park when they saw that in the theater.
Yeah, sure.
As a kid, I was like, whoa, like how'd they do that? It's amazing.
Right.
So while I was at school, I kind of realized that everybody wanted to do this. It's going to be hard to kind of break into the field. However, I graduated and I did land a job right out of college, kind of within my degree, which was video production. So I was making training videos for GM.
Just exactly what you dreamed of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
dream realized. So done.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was great because it really pushed me into another direction. So while I was there, I worked there for a year and I was doing everything like shooting, lighting, sound, editing, some motion graphic type stuff. But while I was there, I was like, okay, this is not what I want to do. that was pretty obvious to me after a few months.
Sure.
But I took advantage of what was in front of me. As far as like I had a salary, so I was getting money. And while I did that, I was still living at home. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to buy a computer. I'm going to buy my own camera, which at the time was a Panasonic DVX 100B, which was, one of the really, really nice video camcorders that did 24p. So I bought those with the intention of teaching myself visual effects while I was working at this job. And they also did have After Effects there too, which they wanted me to learn. Primarily for like motion design, motion graphic stuff.
Yep.
For these wonderful GM training videos. So I did that. And they also had a copy of Lightwave.
Oh, okay.
Which was kind of interesting. But I started with After Effects first.
Lightwave was good times.
Yeah. So, and then he had Lightwave. He was like, oh yeah, give it a shot. I was like, okay. So I, played around with that as well. I was like, whoa, this is weird. It's like two different interfaces for animation and modeling. It was, or not even interfaces. It was like programs that were like built into one. It was really
paradigms, different paradigms.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
So that was kind of strange. And that's why I did a little bit deeper dive and I found Cinema 4D with After Effects connection even at that time. But while I was working at this job, I would get off work and go home and spend like 3 hours probably every day, sometimes more, just going crazy, teaching myself After Effects, shooting my own footage, playing around with different ideas. And that's essentially how I learned visual effects in the beginning.
So what you're describing sounds like it's still a pretty legit way in. I mean, it's funny to think that, you come out of school, you land, I mean, you really got a blessing there because you got an actual job. Right. And I mean, to be honest, the fact that it was with a recognized brand is also great, even if it's like, how dumb the job is, and then the dumbness of the job gives you all this energy to come out, on your own time and build upon it. So, I mean, I've been on both sides of this one, and it's always really fun to interview somebody who comes from that background because the palpable hunger is just so, like it's actually a really great story to bring into basically any studio at any level.
I think so. I think like skill, of course, and there's some natural elements maybe to different talents and things like that. But I think number one is like that passion and drive. And,
right.
Kind of the feeling that, well, everyone else is going to do this, so I need to work that much harder, like every day until I'm closer to where I need to be. And that's truly how it was for me.
So that actually points us toward the next question I have here, which is the chicken and egg problem about breaking into visual effects. Yep. So you've already kind of hinted at how one would do that. So it's almost like the next step in the story here. So go ahead with that.
Yeah. So again, I was at this GM job, kind of teaching myself. Then after a year, I was like, okay, I'm ready to leave. But during that time, I still wasn't sure what I was going to do exactly. Mm-hmm. So while I was still at this job, I used forums, which are kind of not a thing too much on the internet nowadays.
Right.
But forums were huge for me. So I go to different forums and post a bunch of my work, knowing that other professionals, like with 10 years plus experience, are on these forums, and like they're really happy to give free advice.
Was this like the Creative Cow heyday?
Yeah, like Creative Cow, CG Talk.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Cinema 4D specific forum called C4D Cafe, which they're still around. But yeah, back then, it was a big reason of how I became I am today, because of the fact I could post stuff online and get this amazing feedback. And that also landed me my first bigger job. So I would, again, just post stuff online. And one time I got this private message on a forum that was like, hey, Josh, are you in LA? I have some work that I'd love to send you, or you could probably do something like that.
Yeah.
So I replied, I was like, oh, unfortunately, nope, I am not in LA. I'm in St. Louis. And he was like, oh, okay, well, if you're ever in LA, look me up. I'll definitely keep you busy. I was like, okay. It's kind of interesting.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's encouraging.
So that was encouraging. Exactly. So then maybe 3 weeks later, 2 to 3 weeks, probably about 3 weeks, I got I got a message again from the same guy, same company. And he was like, it's like, well, actually, I think I have something I can mail to you that you could work on from like where you're at. I was like,
mail to you. I love it. That's so... That's so 15 years ago.
Exactly. It was one of those things, like the footage was too much. They couldn't even upload it. Yeah.
Right.
So sure enough, he packaged up a hard drive, mailed it to me. And it just happened to be for this movie that had around like a $50 million budget called Duplicity. Had like Julia Roberts and Clive Owen in it.
Wow.
So I only worked on, I think, 4 or 5 shots. I just did 3D tracking. That's all I did.
Yeah.
But that kind of... it was tough, but after I finished that, I was like, okay. I was like, you know what? Well, yeah, I can do this.
Right, and boom, you've got an IMDb page at that point, and you're on your way. Yeah.
And I was like, not only can I do this, maybe I can do this remotely, kind of like not have to even move to LA, maybe.
So I got to ask you, where are you right now? I don't even know.
Yeah, I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
You are in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yep. Yep, that's
Wow.
essentially where I grew up.
Well, you're not the first I've met, but that is some hardcore throwing down, actually. So I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, so
It seems to me like you came up at just the earliest time you could have pulled that off.
I think so.
Don't think it could have been pulled off much earlier than, because we're talking.
No, I think even 5 years before that, it really wouldn't have been possible.
Right. Like, yeah. So like we're talking like mid 2000s here, right?
Yep.
The mid noughts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. We're talking like, let's see, I think I landed that Duplicity job late 2008.
Right. Okay. Well, we're gonna get back to this, even though I don't think we have a specific question on my little list here, but I'm definitely interested in that. So, there's a question here about ways into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you just outlined a really a one that cannot be underestimated. Like going and working for a corporate video department and just being the one who's not willing to get stuck there. And actually forums were great for that too, I found, because there are a lot of people with Joe jobs on forums. Like you'd think like, oh my God, the people who are really using this stuff must just all be badasses. Like, yeah, some of them, but some of them are just doing, or, you know, they're in some backwater doing like, you know, some whatever they can get.
Right.
And, you know, so, and yeah, so, but let's say that, let's say you were just approaching a VFX company directly. What I mean, if you know, what would you speculate is a good way in? Roto back in the day was one of the entry levels, along with Match Moving.
Right. Yeah, I would say I think it depends on what you want to do or where do you see yourself in the future. So, for example, if you want to and see yourself hopefully working at a much bigger studio, you know, ILM type, something like that, then I think really specializing is still something that makes a lot of sense for a bigger studio.
Yep.
But at the same time, even if you are specializing, I would still say there's lots of different skills you should pick up. So, for example, if you are trying to break in, roto and tracking makes a lot of sense. That's still kind of the bottom of the ladder where you would start at a lot of the bigger studios.
Right. And roto corresponds a little bit more to comping and
and
motion tracking more to 3D. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So I think those are still pretty good spots to start. But however, like even if that is kind of your plan to get in there and I'm going to get really good at that, I would still highly recommend like really working on compositing as well, because I feel like they're so connected to all those things, especially rotoscoping, as you mentioned, but even tracking as well.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the question too was, I mean, roto, the stereotype of roto now is, you know, get some company you've never heard of in somewhere in India to take care of it. But I think, you know, and I haven't been in a big VFX company for a while, but it's still the case that having somebody right there that you can communicate with, and also just turning something around on an as needed, like immediately, and not farming it out is still pretty legit, you know, a need for studios. Yeah. So
no, I think so, definitely. And it's a great way to start and kind of work your way up.
I mean, I think it is definitely one more job that when the AI bots get good enough.
Oh, for sure. That's going to be one that's going to be gone. Or at least close.
No one will miss it.
No.
Maybe somebody who got really used to listening to podcasts all day.
Right. So I think that's a good way. But again, I think it kind of depends on what you want to do, where you want to see yourself. But again, like if you really want to do lighting, then by all means, work on that. Like make that your specialty then, if that's what you plan on doing. To break in, because even if you want to do lighting, I wouldn't recommend like, oh, I want to be like, that's what I want to do. I wouldn't just go work on rotoscoping and just start from the bottom and work your way up. I would be working on lighting, look dev, you know, completely. That's what I would
not
do.
To mention just picking up a camera.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So that's one of the biggest tips I give lots of different artists and people in school and up and coming people. They're like, oh, like what kind of advice do you have? It's like, number one, get familiar with a camera, actually know how composition works within like holding a camera and what you see through the lens and f-stops and, you know, deep focus and shallow focus. What do all those things mean? Because I did have the advantage of knowing all that stuff before I started anything into compositing or the 3D world. And that helped me a lot because all those things translate. Lighting. that's I think is a huge, definitely understand and know the techniques physically, because it all translates. And I feel like that makes you a much better artist knowing those things.
Yeah. And do you feel like I do? Like, I mean, in motion graphics, it's fun that you can just always make your own rules, and often you're encouraged to. You're showing people the world in a way they haven't seen it. And visual effects does that to an extent as well, but always also trying to keep people believing what they're seeing. Right. But I do run into in motion graphics points where I'm like, yeah, I really wish they had just looked at some reference and gotten that right. If it's a bit of bokeh or lack of same, a defocus that just doesn't look like a defocus. And I mean, a beautiful defocus is so amazing looking.
Yep. I think you're definitely right. I think a lot of those skills also apply to motion design. And I think even more so than now, with the way that how video is so dominant nowadays. And it's almost everywhere you look.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a little hobby horse I like to ride around. So thanks for indulging me in that one. Yeah. But actually, that does segue into kind of our next set of questions here. So motion graphics versus VFX. I mean, there's so many ways to ask this, but is there a versus in your experience? Like, are they two distinct things?
I think they're different, but there's also a line where they also both merge as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think like when you think of MoGraph, like I often think like motion design or just designing, like designers is kind of the first thing that pops in my head. And I think that is true. Like I think a design background makes a lot of sense. But that's also not to say that a design background is not going to help you in visual effects. That's going to help you there too, of course, because you're going to learn a lot of the fundamental things, composition and color and different things like that. They're going to help in both worlds, really.
Right.
So I think there is some differences, but I feel like they get closer and closer every year, becoming very similar things. Just because I feel like with the fact that we do carry phones around us, everywhere, and videos are everywhere, and that's not going away. And I feel like a lot of how you integrate motion design into videos is probably going to be some part of compositing or visual effects that's going to help that, come together and make it the best you want it to be, and also like clients and stuff like that. So
yeah. Do you ever find there's kind of a difference in mindset between
at least for me, I think there is, but I mean, it's probably different for some people.
I mean, because some of your work is definitely stretching the boundaries of quote unquote realism.
Right.
And that is part and parcel what we would think of motion graphics doing.
It's true.
Yet you're definitely doing it from a VFX point of view. And I just have always encountered a lot of people in the strictly VFX business who, if you hand them a shot and go, hey, work your magic, they'll be like, what do you actually want me to do? Because
that's a good point. Yeah. Yep.
So, it's so used to getting a shot turnover that's got it all kind of spelled out.
Yeah,
and it's on the flip side. I mean, motion graphics is very technical, but it's a little bit different flavor of technical than VFX. Yeah.
That's a good point. It makes me kind of think of something that is a little bit different. I feel like if you're coming up in the motion graphics and motion design type of world, I do think you think about projects more from a director's standpoint than probably a lot of visual effects artists would. Now, for me, it was a little bit different just because I came from like a background of wanting to be a director and had like the, video production / kind of film school background. And I did do some motion graphics as well. So the way I always approach things is definitely from like a story perspective and a director perspective. Not just like you were saying, like, oh, here's my list of what I need to do. And honestly, that has helped me a lot. Because the reason I've been able to stay in St. Louis is because of word of mouth, is how, I could work. And a lot of the directors I've worked with on, whether it be feature films or commercials and stuff, a lot of them have spoke to my ability to be able to communicate with them from a level of like storytelling and directing. And there'll be times where I even offer up ideas where I see fit. So I think that is also kind of what you kind of touched on is a different way of probably thinking about a shot that some visual effects artists maybe wouldn't quite think that way, just because of the way the industry has been and kind of like, oh, here's your list, here, do this. Okay.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, and on the flip side,
Mhm.
I've certainly worked with motion graphics artists who are amazing, working with no brief whatsoever and
Exactly.
almost prefer it. It's like
Yeah.
just let me make pretty stuff, and don't bog me down with your
Right.
with your realism constraints, or I don't know if that's, I think it's actually
Mhm.
less that and more just habitual, honestly. But that is a really great, that is actually a very valuable piece for motion graphics people who might feel a little intimidated,
Yep.
by the visual effects business, and to realize that having raw creative skills, and specifically the skill of taking, making something from nothing, like at whatever
Right.
level you can do that, that is a certain kind of magic. And within a visual effects facility, the people who either pure artists who can, create, draw
Right.
concepts or characters on that end of the scale, or the pure technicians who can, create a visual that is those ones that are in the bounds almost of motion graphics, the type of shit you do with Houdini, either on the
Right.
MoGraph or VFX side. But
Yeah.
even not going to that level, just cleverly coming up with something like, wow, that's really intriguing. Those are really valuable skills.
Definitely. I feel like one of the biggest things in visual effects, I would have to imagine, for like motion designers that are working on projects, kind of at the same level that I would be, I think probably the biggest skill set is still probably problem solving is a huge one. And I feel
Yeah.
like that is probably what excites me a lot about stuff I'm working on in the visual effects world, because literally no project is the same. It's like you get a new
Right.
shot and you're like, okay, like how do I figure this one out? Like,
Yeah.
there's not a tutorial to, to
Right.
go look up and figure this out.
So do you often end up in a designer role? Like you are the designer, or are you as often working with a designer?
It's gone both ways. It depends.
Uh-huh.
I mean, so there's a couple of situations where I've worked on like feature films, and I started from the very beginning. So I was brought in, pretty much where you should be during the script phase, and being able to take a look and do a breakdown. So not only visual effects supervise a show, which I've done a lot, but also work on some of the concept development. For example, there was an indie feature in 2014 that I worked on, that I did the concept design for the teleportation effects.
Uh-huh.
So kind of, I did that, as well as, supervising it, doing the bulk of the compositing and working a lot of 3D work. And I actually did end up doing all of the effects simulation stuff for the teleportation stuff as well.
Yeah.
But I did work on like the design for it as well in the beginning. And for me, like that's exciting and kind of helps me go through all the different, cycles that it needs to go through, and working with the director and DP, all the stuff at an early phase, I think is pretty valuable. But I guess you're right though. I guess some people maybe haven't had the opportunity to kind of, or maybe in a visual effects, coming from that background, maybe you don't even think like that's something you're going to be doing. So you're kind of intimidated by it possibly. But yeah, I mean, I think you should definitely be open to that design part of it as well. Like that, should be a part that excites you, I think.
Right. So it sounds like you're pretty comfortable in both roles. Like,
fairly comfortable. I mean, I'm certainly not like I've never called myself a motion designer by any chance, by any stretch of the imagination. But when it comes in the visual effects world, I can definitely help design in that way. And technically, there's certain things that you would probably think, oh, that sounds like that's pretty much motion design. But
well, there's what we call in visual effects look design.
Yeah.
So like your transporter effect would be an example of that, where it's like, well,
just look dev. Yeah.
Here's a little bit of information, but mostly, and then they tend to cite references and go, okay, let's avoid making like this or this, but more like this. Yeah.
Right. And there's always the thing too, like the director, it's like, well, I can't really describe it. I can see it in my head. They give you a couple of things, and then, which is fine. Like that's kind of fun too. Like, all right, take this.
Speaking of which, David Lewandowski.
Yep.
This is a man who sees some crazy things in his head.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me about that partnership. That's someone I think most people listening are pretty familiar, and if not, they should be just Googling that right now and then seeing what they cannot then unsee. And so David, it sounds like, you know, the style, the signature style is his, and but you've done quite a bit of work kind of building out the basic thing that he does into, I don't know, things with rolling subways and crazy shit. Right.
No, he's definitely a unicorn. he has lots of different talents and so many different abilities. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting too, actually, to think. Yeah, like, it's funny. It kind of reminds me a little bit of what Picasso said about his artwork. Like, he had to learn to draw like an angel before he could learn to draw like a child or something. It's like, there's something about doing something that's deliberately a little bit crude and wrong, but doing it in such a sophisticated way that's just kind of mind-boggling.
It's a great analogy.
Anyway.
Yeah, but no, he's been great to work with.
Yeah. No, tell me more about it. I mean, so like, I think in my experience, the people who do some of the craziest stuff are actually often the easiest to communicate. Like, they're the craziest artists often are very look you in the eye and down to earth about actually and able to talk about process. Ironically, is that the case?
That's definitely David. Yeah. Like he often like knows what he wants, and because of, I guess, his background and the artist that he is, he can imagine that in his head, but he can also describe it to you pretty well, or even make up a mock-up of something. And that's really helpful, because that's not always the case. But I think he has a pretty extreme ability in the motion design world and the visual effects world, and then also being able to communicate that to others. Right. So I think I've worked with him on maybe like 2 or 3 music videos, and then his Go Into His Store was the first one. I didn't work on that, but I worked on Late for Meeting and then Time for Sushi, like his 2 follow-ups to that. I did a variety of things on those. I think like 3D tracking, and then some compositing help, and then fluid simulation things. But each of those projects, like, he was, he knew exactly like what he was going for, and had the idea in his head.
Right. I have to say, the gag where the subway car lands in the station was really funny. I actually laughed out loud on that moment.
That's great.
Yeah. So obviously, there's a guy who, is the master of these couple domains. Yep. So, okay, unicorn. And, similar, I mean, there's other people we could name, people who are both, putting out a very unique signature vision. Like, you always know whose work you're looking at. Well, always, but I mean, generally, if you know the stuff, you recognize it. And so it seems like it's a real encouragement to develop that kind of, I mean, because it's founded on technical skill, right? Yep. That's, and that, I mean, the question we have down here to discuss is how rare is that? But I'm also interested in, like, it seems like there's always room for someone to go ahead and just do that, and then you get the advantage of being approached for that, or for something that's in that realm. If you're going to take clients.
I think so. I think there is certainly always an advantage for that. And then as far as like how rare is that? I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know, but I definitely have met people like David and people and others that do seem to, be really, really skilled in both areas. But, at the same time, I think if you're someone up and coming, or you're learning motion design, or you're already a pretty good motion designer, I think stretching those technical abilities and learning some visual effects thing is only going to help you that much more, even if you just plan to stay like in the quote unquote motion or the MoGraph world.
Right.
Like, that's only going to help you so much. And that's kind of like the same things I tell visual effects people as well. Like, for me, I came up as a generalist, and that's definitely what I am. Started with compositing, doing that more first, which I still do a ton of, probably the most I do.
Right.
But learning all those other different skills has only helped me to not only just communicate with other artists better, directors, and then just help me as an artist better. Because if I am a compositor, but I'm also able to open up a 3D program, I can, create some of my own assets for me if I need to help this comp go better, even if it wasn't necessarily calling for that. But if I know how to do that, then why not?
Yes.
In fact, so that the 1 and 2, which is the name of the movie, where I helped with the teleportation design, the look dev of that. So originally on that movie, we were I was going to partner up with Tippett Studio, and we were going to do the effects kind of together. Like I was going to supervise it, then they're going to kind of help in post, and I was going to partner up with one of their more like senior supervisors, just so I could, as a consultant, so I could also bounce things off of, because it was like my first big project I was going to be supervising, like on set.
Yeah, I may know the person you're talking about. I know a few people over there.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, actually it was Eric Levin. I don't know if you know him.
Oh yeah. They're my neighbors over in Berkeley, and there's a lot of ex-Lucas people over there.
That's cool. Yeah. Super nice guy, just really talented. And it was great to, so I got a chance to kind of work with him in the beginning stages. We actually worked together kind of developing the concept design of the teleportation stuff. Like I would basically work on it and kind of send it to him. We'd go back and forth, and then we present it to the director.
Yeah.
So it was a really nice process. But the thing that I was going to point out was, at first, like as we were working on that, like the idea was kind of stay all within this 2D realm, just figuring out compositing wise. Mm-hmm. But because I had a background in 3D as well, I was like, well, to me, it makes sense. I need some effect simulation stuff to really pull this off. And I can do that myself. Like it's not crazy to think this compositor can get in a 3D program and make some of my own assets. So I did that. And Eric was like, oh, yep. I just remember him being kind of surprised a little bit. But I think that's probably just like for me, it was no big deal just because I'm a generalist and that's kind of what I do.
Yeah.
But I think coming from a background where usually the compositor strictly is doing a lot of compositing stuff and waiting for other departments to hand you, those assets.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. The assembly line thing doesn't occur. I mean, it's now a given in motion graphics that you're gonna, well, for the most part, you're gonna be using AE and C4D.
Yep.
I mean, like it's going to be hard to be one or the other and call yourself a motion graphics person. I think these days that's pretty unanimous.
So I think that's a huge skill set. I think is to be able to expand on that and even the technical side as well.
I think it's worth reinforcing too, and I imagine you yourself fit into this as well, that it's possible to have a very signature style without being Beeple or David. I mean, I've worked with some very gifted MoGraph/VFX artists whose style I recognize, and it just happens that their tastes go more toward, like one guy, like his favorite movie is The Cell. So he just likes super clean, like hyper, sexy type stuff. And it happens to be exactly what clients want as well. So that's very handy for him. But anyway, so I mean, I'm just saying it kind of as an aside, like you don't need to have the idea that you have to be creating quite such out there artwork, although it definitely visionary stuff will definitely get people's attention.
Yeah. And I've come across a couple people too that I feel like they started in visual effects, but have completely are in like complete MoGraph world now.
Oh yeah, like anyone we would know?
Yeah. Like gosh, I'm so terrible at names, but super cool dude. Rich Noseworthy, I think is how you pronounce his last name.
Huh. Okay. I'm not familiar.
He recently did some training with Tim Clapham, like HoloLux, for some Redshift training. He did, which is haven't watched it, but I'm sure it's really good. He's a great artist, great teacher.
Yeah.
But he actually started kind of in the visual effects world, and is now pretty much all in motion design. I think he's a super talented artist, and again, I think that the foundation knowledge of visual effects has only helped him. in what he's doing now.
Yeah, not to mention some of the work habits in VFX can be really actually helpful. Yeah, people I've worked with who've made that transition tend to still think in terms of efficiency, because the VFX facility model is always kind of focused on that.
Yep, that's true.
By the way, we're sort of sticking to the glamour side, but there's the tedious side of this as well. And I mean, it's true of visual effects and motion graphics. They both got their kind of repetitive tasks you have to do. Do you want to weigh in on whether those are more odious in VFX than MoGraph, or if you know?
Yeah, I can definitely speak from just things that I've done, over the years. So there might be like a show I was working on last year. We premiered at Sundance. It was a feature film, and some of the stuff in there was kind of more. The visual effects shots some things were kind of fun and interesting, like some digital birds, things like that. But on the other hand, there was a lot of cleanup stuff too.
And which film was this?
This was called The Long Dumb Road.
Okay.
Probably a couple actors in there you'd recognize.
I saw A Ghost Story at ILM actually,
cool.
and I
did you really at ILM?
Yeah. The director was there showing it, and it was great.
Oh yeah, David, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Gosh, talk about another unicorn and a freak of nature. That dude. Wow.
Anyway, I didn't want to get you off top.
Yeah.
But, anyway, you weren't talking about that film, but
I did do a little work on that too.
Yeah.
But so The Long Dumb Road had a variety of stuff in there, and it's one of those type projects too, which happens all the time in the visual effects world, and I'm sure it's not too different in really all the different kind of design worlds. But I got originally hired to supervise it on set, which I did. And then there was like maybe 7 shots the film was going to have, right? Like that's kind of why I was supervising and while I was there. And of course, later in post, that 7 shots ballooned to like 40 something, which happens.
Yeah.
And part of that is, especially because a lot of the films that I do work on are, smaller films. It's not like Avengers. So a lot of the directors haven't worked with visual effects that much or know too much of the capabilities. So, because, a lot of people, I think, like Dragons and Game of Thrones, and sure, that's obviously some visual effects work happening there. But, there's so much you can do to help support a story. And for basic cleanup stuff, that still goes a long way to supporting a story. So, for example, just like changing out some signs. Yeah. Some signs is, kind of a simple thing but can be, pretty crucial to like a story point in a film.
Yeah.
Even the first project on Duplicity, what I was tracking was this hallway shot in a hotel, and all I needed to do was track it so they could change the room number of a hotel room. Because they needed that for like the story point to make sense and work. But so back to Long Dumb Road, there was some cleanup stuff I was doing also, like on the talent's face. Like removing blemishes and things like that because camera was up close. Removing camera reflection like in a car hood. Again, like those. Once the audience sees that.
I love jobs. Do you like those jobs? I think those are really fun, actually.
Those are fun. Yeah, those are fun. I wouldn't like to only do those jobs,
right? Yeah.
But when they're mixed in, they are fun because it's also satisfying to be able to like remove that and like, oh, yep, it's gone and no one's gonna know, and I just helped support the story in a way that so a viewer is not going to see it and then kind of like get thrown out of or kind of remove themselves from the element of like, oh, this is a movie now. Like I can see this camera here. This is being it's being recorded.
Yeah.
So like the idea that the viewer is not going to notice these things and kind of just stay within the story the whole time and nothing that's going to like pull them out of it because an obvious camera reflection is probably something that could potentially kind of make the viewer wait a second, you see that and then you start thinking about things. You just want the story to keep flowing.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff I did with that. And there was even some stuff where I added like a digital breath, cold breath and stuff, which is, a little different than cleanup.
How did you guys do it? Did you do the cigarettes through the sock approach? How did you get your elements for that?
So that actually, I started out, I was like, well, I can just send this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to take forever. And it's indie film on a budget. And to get it realistic enough to where I want, like, because there's definitely good examples of bad versions of that.
Oh my God, yeah. The Social Network had some terrible. Oh my God, yeah.
Exactly, that was the main one I think of. Yeah. So instead, I was like, okay, let me look around, and I think it was Effects Elements, one of the stock sites.
Yeah,
had some great cold breath stuff on there. I was like, perfect.
Yeah, it's usually done by sticking somebody behind some black muslin, and they just smoke a cigarette.
Yep, exactly. Like there's no other way. Like that's a perfect way to do it.
Yeah. So complicated. Yeah.
Like you're probably not going to go into cold temperatures and try to reenact it.
Yeah.
But it was perfect and it totally worked. And again, like a really small thing to kind of help sell of the environment and where they were at and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah, there's definitely jobs I have where they're more cleanup stuff. Certainly not as sexy as other projects and work.
Yeah.
But I mean, some of that stuff I do have on my show reel as well. Like, in fact, there is a documentary I worked on that won the Grand Jury Prize at Sundance in 2014.
What's that one?
Called Rich Hill. And so, and again, like documentaries aren't really known for visual effects, right? I mean, to the standard viewer, I guess.
Yeah.
But I did probably like over 20 shots for that. But a lot of it was, for one, fixing camera artifacts, kind of like the equivalent of fixing like dust and stuff on a film. But, you know, like a Red camera sometimes will have some artifacts you have to clean up.
Yeah.
So fixing that. And then there was a bunch of stuff because it was a doc and it won Sundance, and then PBS bought it and showed it like on the independent lens as well.
Yeah.
They didn't want viewers like being able to pause the TV and seeing like addresses, right, for these real people.
Oh, uh-huh.
But they also didn't want, like the directors didn't want it to be, oh, it's a blurb of stuff out, because it kind of takes you out of the story and out of the film. So instead, I just made up like fake addresses and things like that. So there were some complicated shots where like, I think one of them is on my 2008 reel where there's a kid like going through pieces of mail letters on a table. So I just replaced it with fake addresses.
Right.
But he's moving them around, so there's traffic mapping and things like that.
Blur and stuff, Yeah,
and some different things like that I did. And changing logos on hats, you know, for brands and things like that always happens. And shirts, removing of logos like that. So yeah, there's always cleanup work happening, especially once I think a director realizes like, oh, that's, you can do that. Like, that's something we can do. That's not like crazy expensive. Opens up a lot more doors.
Yeah. So are you more of an audio book and podcast guy or more of a music guy while you're working on stuff like that?
Kind of all of the above.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, like I'll definitely listen to some podcasts, but I'll definitely throw on some music as well. Sometimes I'll go completely silent as well too.
Yeah. It can get zen when you're doing some of these things.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about tools a little bit.
Yep.
So it sounds like you started in After Effects and video editing software.
Yep. Yeah, it started at, I think the first program probably was Avid.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Then Final Cut.
Right. And then they wanted you to learn After Effects. And then you, and it sounds like Lightwave popped up its head at GM as well. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the first program I used. And I remember following a tutorial that didn't last very long.
Lightwave's so great. Was it like a Dan Ablin tutorial?
Yep. It sure was.
Yeah.
Wow. That's funny.
Yeah. I always loved the Lightwave community.
Yeah.
Very supportive. Yeah, exactly. And always trying to get away with murder. Cool. And then obviously at some point people were asking you for Cinema 4D rather than Lightwave skills. So you did those. Yep. And I imagine the same thing happened with Nuke. I don't know if you, do you have a seat of Nuke in your studio?
I do. Yep, I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. So you had to spring. Wow. Okay. Well.
Yeah. So I bought it actually while I was working on that feature in 2014. There was just a lot of shots and a lot of CG stuff, and comps were getting huge in After Effects, and kind of things were slowing down a little bit. And then just the ability to really composite and incorporate CG elements. I mean, Nuke just really shines. Oh yeah, I mean the 3D side of it. Yeah. Working with FBX and all that. So yeah, I have a seed of Nuke and I use Nuke, but I still use After Effects too, just because I've been using it for like over a decade. So I'm still fast. Yeah. I use it. So I use both. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's funny that
it's almost, well, this is a rabbit hole, but I do sometimes remind people that Nuke isn't necessarily more powerful. It's often much more efficient.
Exactly.
It's really only designed around visual effects, and you would not want to do MoGraph. You would not want to. Animating type in Nuke, I can't even imagine what that would look like.
I remember, when I first had Nuke, I remember playing around with the type tool, and that was it. That was the last time that was it.
Played, yeah, exactly. Okay. put that away. Let's see. So
and a strange thing, just to point out, program-wise, I actually learned After Effects before I learned Photoshop.
Oh, yeah.
Which to me is odd, but sometimes it happens, I guess.
I mean, yeah, you're really not alone there. And I actually, I've encountered no shortage of people who get good at After Effects and just drop Photoshop entirely.
Oh, well.
It happens. Well, okay, so let's dig in a little bit more. So where exactly do you find that After Effects is the wrong tool and Nuke is the right one?
Yeah, I mean, probably the only times I've really I'm definitely just going to use Nuke for this is when I had on a feature or potentially a higher end commercial or something where I did have a lot of CG stuff to incorporate in. For example, it's a film I worked on that I supervised as well. It's on HBO now. It's called Native Son.
Yeah.
Like a remake of it again.
Yeah.
Based on that novel. There was a couple of shots where I had to make like a digital rat.
Did you say a rat?
Yeah, a rat.
Okay.
Yeah. So like for compositing it, I just knew for me, like I'm always able to get better results at a faster, more efficiently, kind of what you spoke to when I'm compositing CG stuff, heavy CG stuff in a photorealistic way inside of Nuke. And I guess in ways it's not too big of a surprise because that's literally what it was designed for.
Yeah. Well, were you rendering multi-channel like EXRs and going that way?
I was. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And for sure, certainly when it comes to multi-channel EXRs, there's really almost no comparison with Nuke and After Effects.
Yeah, it's almost as if that is right at the heart of right.
Yeah. So that is a definitely a huge plus if you're going to be compositing multi-channel EXRs for Nuke versus After Effects.
Right. But similarly, also, if you need to work real time with some sort of 3D environment, I mean, does that come up as well? Like where you...
Yeah, definitely. And I think for projection stuff too. There's some shots where I've had to do projections and sure, I've done my projections just straight inside Cinema 4D, using the Projection Man tool set and things like that. But, there's to be able to handle that in compositing, to be able to switch stuff out compared to having to do it all in 3D, or attempting it in a 2.5D space in After Effects. So Nuke definitely being able to bring in a tracked camera and work in the full 3D environment and set up some cards and be able to project what you need to do, whether it be for cleanup or anything.
Yeah,
there's actually a shot in that Native Son film that again I knew 100% I was going to be using Nuke for it because I knew there's a lot of projection work had to be done. Where I made some renders in Cinema, but then did all the compositing, including the projection stuff, in a combination with Cinema 4D and Nuke.
That's really interesting. There's a MoGraph artist friend of mine who spent some time in LA as well, and he refused to get good at Nuke because of actually the stigma and the downward pressure on wages / respect, which is kind of and I understood actually. I mean, out here in California, it is a little bit like Nuke is it's the rifle that gets handed to the Russian army and then picked up by another soldier when one goes down,
right.
But so in other words, After Effects in his mind was where he could be an artist. I mean, that's going a bit far. I think it makes sense in that most of the places you're unusual because usually Nuke, I bet I would guess that 80 to 90% of the Nuke seats are company licenses, and so you're talking about a facility that's got to have at least a dozen, but potentially 100 plus compositors / generalists working with it, right?
Yep.
So I mean, I think part of this is just that it exists in more of an assembly line world often than After Effects does. But do you want to say anything else about that?
Another thing for me, one of the advantages I'd say over After Effects is because of the node base the layout, the way it works as opposed to the layers, it's much easier to try out something in a really big comp.
Yeah.
You have a lot of things going on, a lot of different nodes. You can literally just like switch out a node very easily and try something, and you don't break your comp. Now, you can do that in After Effects. It just takes a lot more time to do that. Or if you're working on a series of shots where like what you need to do is actually pretty similar for each shot. There's just a little bit of changing things. You can set up almost a template in Nuke and save it, and then save a new version, and then just change out one node with your new footage. And like, oh, I'm almost there already. And sure, you can like re-import footage into After Effects from a new change of the footage or whatever.
Right.
But it's just it's a lot easier to iterate and change things like that inside a Nuke. Compared to After Effects. But at the same token, like because I'm so fast at After Effects, there's certain things like a lot of green screen car shots or blue screen. Yeah. Like I'm just so much more comfortable inside of After Effects. Just because I've been using it forever and I can get in and get out. Because at the end of the day, it's about efficiency. So like whatever is going to make me go faster probably is probably the tool I'm going to use.
Yeah. And just to put that one to bed, I mean, I taught an After Effects course at FX PhD at one point. So it was full of a lot of Nuke aspirants. And the attitude as we got into doing specifically the keying work was like, well, maybe I'll just take this over to Nuke and stop messing around with it. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be like that. It's like, first of all, it's the same tool. I mean, Keylight is a Foundry tool, but also, a difficult key is just a difficult key. It's going to need some attention. So it's really, you're going to have to put in the work somewhere.
No, that's
until, like I said, until the bots take over and the
until the bots
and the depth
over.
Sensing cameras have taken over where we don't use green.
Oh my gosh, yes, that is very, very true. But I will say though, like After Effects, there is something about it that, and maybe it's just because I've used it forever, but I do feel like there is a little bit like something when you open it and you bring comp in or you're messing with something. There's almost feels like there is kind of more of a push toward like, oh, I can experiment a little bit more in here. Whereas Nuke, it does feel like you're just in a much more technical environment. And of course you can experiment.
It's a little programmatical. It's like, well, now I will introduce this loop procedure /
Right. So in After Effects, I do think that there are certain things where you can kind of experiment quicker design wise with certain things that it does still, I think, obviously has the advantage of.
Interesting.
Even in the visual effects world for certain things. Like, I mean, you see like Stu, how some of the stuff he does in After Effects and the way he talks and the way he uses it is, I think that kind of just shows like it's a program that is fun to use. Like it's fun to use and it's easy to kind of get started and to go down that road, and you can still, still do really amazing, powerful things with it.
I mean, Cinema 4D, similarly, I think more really amazingly, I think more and more over time has become, I mean, Lightwave back in the day was kind of that way too, but but Cinema's got a lot of fun things that, and every cinema artist that I know is like, well, yeah, but one day I'm going to learn Houdini. It's like, well, okay, but and there is a technical limit to what you can do with the MoGraph tools in Cinema, but you might it might not be as much fun. I mean, it might be a long learning curve, and like
no, I mean, I think it's much more artist friendly, in my opinion. I mean, obviously Nuke, or not Nuke, but Houdini is a lot more technical. Like there's just no way around that.
Yeah, and then it's a natural thing we do. We always, you want to drive the Maserati. You want to
and that's one of the reasons I still love like doing look dev and even rendering when I can and shading and lighting in Arnold. Even though I know it's not, it has GPU capabilities now, and I have a Redshift license, which I still use. But Arnold is just, it's so fast. There's like so little controls, which is great because I feel like this makes it more artist friendly. Yeah, get in and start playing around with look dev and fire up the IPR.
Right.
And that's just fun.
Yeah, and it's a good reminder. I mean, it's kind of like when people talk about color correction or lighting, and it's like, well, is it correct? And it's like, well, that's very subjective, actually, and it's really going to depend on so many other factors that the glass, the color depth of the sensor on the camera. I mean, so, I mean, throwing Arnold on a render is a similar thing. It's like, well, I don't know. It's just now a lot of the things that were technically there without rendering it this way just look better.
Exactly. No.
You could get into the nitty gritty of why, but
Yeah, for sure. And I think that there's this quote, I can't remember exactly, but Dennis Muren talked about technically you're supposed to do like the math and composite and you got to do this and this and this is what it says. But he's like, at the end of the day, it's all about the eye test, right? I still think it is.
yeah. Dennis he's really great for just messing something up to get it to actually look right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. As we get close to the end here, I guess we can talk about some career retrospective type questions. Hardest VFX shot. Do you have a good war story?
It's interesting. I feel like almost every feature, like new feature I work on, like usually that kind of takes the cake. Like there's always a new shot that happens to be the hardest one, it seems.
Isn't that a great thing? That is a thing about visual effects is there is a sense in which every shot is a new shot. I mean, there are the shots that are like, okay, it's just a medium close up and we got to put them over background. But any shot that's really got anything to it is in many ways a new shot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things like, often I'll ask myself, well, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
I know I can do this. I told them I'm going to do it. But, when you're actually working on it, it's like, all right, I need to figure this out. Like, what do I... But and that's part of the fun of it too, like the problem solving and kind of pulling from your background, trying different things on it because once it does work, it's very satisfying.
So is there a good example of one, maybe even fairly recently, where you actually had to learn something to get the shot done?
Yeah, sure. So I honestly, the film that I spoke about called Native Son, which is on HBO now. It's so that had a whole bunch of stuff in there. So for starters, let's just go back to the beginning of it. When I supervised it. So we're talking about a film that A24 was like already like bought it, the script phase, like before we started shooting.
Yeah.
And Oscar nominated DP was shooting it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, it's going to be awesome. Like, all these people behind it. It's going to be like the easiest set I've ever walked into as far as like things are going to be how they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And of course that's just optimistic thinking. It's never like that no matter what. But so I walked in and I was like, oh my gosh, like the worst blue screen I've ever seen in my life. It's like, oh gosh. All right. Okay. This. So once that carried over to post, I was like, okay, let's figure this out. And of course it just involved a lot of roto work mainly.
Yeah.
So that was a challenge, but in the same film, like it had a rat in there. Right. And so I had to make fur and stuff, and I've never done fur for. I played around with it, of course, did some R&D things and post some stuff on Instagram of fur renders. But I never had to do it for a job. So that was a challenge in itself, like making realistic rat fur on indie film on a budget and all these different things, and lighting that was tough. But then the last shot of the film was probably the most challenging in ways. The one I had to do some projection stuff on, just because. So it was a locked off shot. And of course, when working with a Oscar-nominated DP, a locked off shot's still going to look pretty amazing. He knows exactly what he's doing. But so this was a shot that wasn't even talked about during script or before we started shooting. But then I had a phone call with the director, and he was like, "All right, so this shot's kind of like the most important in the movie. It's the last shot of the film. It's like 18 seconds long. Like there's this voiceover, and just needs to feel like this and real heavenly and all." I was like, okay, wow, just not hearing about this shot. All right.
By the way,
kind of a thing. So it was a locked off shot, but they needed like a slow dolly right into the shot as well. And this was like in a warehouse facing up through the roof. So you could see the sky.
A lock off that had to turn into a dolly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Lock off had to turn off with a dolly. It was looking off into like a blown out sky that needed to be replaced and feel heavenly and all these different things. So that was really challenging because it was also like 18 seconds long.
So it's a slow push into a scene.
Yep. A slow push. So I knew I had to do some camera projection and to get the real parallax for the push. But then I had to replace the sky. Then I had to add like atmospherics into the shot. And like there was just a whole bunch of things that I've, never really done all together for one shot. Yeah. To make it work.
Wow.
And like having the pressure of like, oh, this is like really, really important. And this is huge voiceover that goes with it.
Yeah. And that was predominantly a nuke shot. That was one where you were,
Yeah. I mean, nuke in cinema as far as composite. Yeah. But a nice heavy dose of Cinema 4D as well.
Okay. So being this all-rounder who can do all these different skills. We've talked a lot about the advantage of that and the doors it's opened for you, and it definitely, I would credit being able to spend your whole career in St. Louis with that. Like the fact that you're a go-to for men. I mean, the other way to do it is to be absolutely the best at, let's say, concept art. Then you could live on the North Pole if you wanted to, and they'd still find you. But what would you say? Because obviously there are disadvantages as well. So, what stands out to you?
Yeah,
you were talking.
I would say so. The number one disadvantage, potentially, is the fact that you are a generalist. So sometimes you're like, oh, there's a new program or a new technique. I need to learn that, or should I learn that, or I kind of want to learn that because I like learning about all this stuff, which is how I became a generalist.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, do you really need to learn Marvelous Designer right now? Or do you need to pick up Houdini? Like, you can get kind of lost of trying to do too many things or learn too many new things. So usually, like, I try to limit myself to things that I think I see an immediate need for, I could use in my work.
Yeah.
Or there's it's very possible that I might need to learn how to make fur, make that look good. So there was a time where I learned how to do that, and it helped me eventually.
Yeah.
So I think there is the whole master of none. Good at many tools, but master of none, kind of jack of all trade things is a potential thing only in the realm of if you try to do like way too much, like. When do you say no to trying to learn something new? I think is an interesting dilemma that probably I still always struggle with.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that is maybe if you truly do want to work at a big studio, which I've had some job opportunities before at some pretty big studios in LA and stuff. Turn them down. Thinking about it now, maybe I would have done a few more months, or I would have worked maybe like a 3-month, 6-month contract at those just for the learning experience and things like that would have been great.
Yeah.
But if I feel like I got lucky too for just, connections and working on this and that, because I feel like in a lot of times you may not have the opportunity to be able to be a specialist at a studio if you've just been a generalist your whole time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I mean, you get to work on whole shots. You get to call a shot your own. And that's pretty rare. Like most studios can't pull that off. The boutique approach doesn't scale well, and it relies a lot on the talent of the individual artists, and those people become hard to find. It's easier for the studio to find someone who's just really good at shading or whatever. So I guess. I suppose the disadvantage that you're speaking to is if you wanted to call yourself the best at
exactly
X or Y. Yeah.
Right. Grooming or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, honestly, to me, there's not that many disadvantages, in my opinion, personally. Yeah. There was even a pretty big studio that had offered me like a compositing job, right? But knowing my background and having worked with them on some different things and seeing where I work, they're like, oh, well, after the compositing job's up, if you want, you could jump into like doing some effects work or, jump into like a different skill set, really. So that just speaks to, I think, the advantage of it as well.
Right.
Even at a bigger place, potentially.
Yeah. Huh. All right. So on behalf of the students taking this course, so you come out of VFX for MoGraph with some VFX chops. And how would you suggest to a MoGraph artist that they sell that on like, I guess specifically, and this is kind of, there is an art to this. How do you show your work? And your reel's up there, so I think we'll link to it, so you can speak directly. And I even saw you have there's still a reel of yours up from a few years ago, I think 2014.
Yeah.
Like anything you think is going to be posted kind of indefinitely, you're free to actually reference it directly, but like more kind of advice for people in that position.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one. first thing I'll say is, strangely, that 2014 reel
Mhm.
was the first reel I ever put up
Oh,
online,
okay.
which is a really weird way to go about things. I don't necessarily recommend that. But at the same time, I don't know. I guess I felt like I wasn't ready to put it out there until I was ready.
Well, clearly you
Um,
didn't need it. You weren't.
And I didn't need it because I was getting work already, and
Yeah.
I was working in an agency as well.
So what did it do for you to get that up there?
Yeah, that did a lot actually. Like, to my surprise, it kind of blew up.
Oh, okay.
Like I don't know what it's like now, but in a Google search, if you type in like VFX reel, like my 2 reels are like in the top 10 there, which is odd to me.
Well, you got this great VFX Daily is a great brand, so
Thanks.
that's
Yeah,
got to be
that helps.
helping you. But I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the work's got to back it up.
Definitely. So that all helps. And then some blogs would pick up. I was like, oh, like top 10 compositing reel that was mixed in with like The Mill and like Game of Thrones. And I was like, okay, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, it's true. You're out there more than many.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have more.
That's
of a
what I was
presence.
going to speak to. I was going to speak to is like, like put your work out there. And
Mhm.
yeah, if it's, whether it be a case study or before after reel, I think those are both helpful if done well. Like,
Yeah.
and you can look around. I mean, there's really great. I mean, look at David Lewandowski. He's got some great process reels
Uh-huh.
of some of the stuff he's done. Now, obviously, that's probably more in depth than maybe what you'll be able to post after some of what you learned here, maybe. But it's a great example of how to really put together, I think, a good process reel or before and after reel. And I
Right.
think from like a motion design's perspective, I think a process reel is lends itself even better than just a before after reel, which is kind of a more visual effects reel, in my opinion, at least. I
Uh-huh.
feel like process reels are a little bit newer. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Like a process reel, because you could see like, oh, here's like the early design stuff I started working on, and the footage I shot, and then some of the 3D I did, and then we composited some of the new visual effects stuff that I learned, say, in this class.
Yeah.
So I think like a nice process reel or case study could speak to that. I think would be very beneficial
Uh-huh.
to kind of showcasing what you learned.
Yeah, definitely. Do you look at a lot of reels, or do you hire people to help you, or are you really mostly a lone gun?
I've definitely hired some people too. I used to look a lot of reel. Like a long time ago, I looked at a lot of them more for inspiration, honestly.
Yeah.
When I was starting and things like that.
Right.
But yeah, so if I'm going to hire somebody, sometimes I will look at the reels, or usually it's like word of mouth recommendation from type of somebody, and then I'll check out the reel too.
Yeah.
Because on that 2014 film that I did a bunch of work on, the 1 and 2 teleportation stuff and all that, I think I comped 60% of the shots, did a bunch of 3D work, did all the teleportation stuff, but I did hire some freelancers too to help me for some compositing and some 3D work and some lighting on some stuff.
Yeah.
And they were like super talented, really amazing.
Yeah.
Freelancers, and of course, like their reels spoke to that. Not to
Okay.
mention like their IMDb and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think reels are certainly important.
What would you say? What would be the biggest mistakes? And specifically, I mean, because I think let's just talk about visual effects specifically. Like, what are some of the main mistakes?
I think all reels, probably the biggest mistake is length. You don't want to go too long. That's number one.
Yeah, I knew you weren't going to say too short. Right. I bet it's possible to do an amazing 5-second reel that would get you hired.
Probably.
Yeah, I bet it's possible.
Probably.
Yeah.
So like probably length, and then for sure like not having tutorial stuff that's recognizable that
Ooh.
is in your reel.
Right.
Because that stuff we've probably all seen that before here and there.
Yeah, or I mean, if you are going to do that, and that speaks to how we design this class. The idea is to put your own stamp on it. I mean,
Absolutely.
In visual effects, we're all limited by the elements that were shot and kind of the brief we were given, and yet, No,
and I think that's 100% true. Because I think a tutorial really is showing you a lot of techniques and stuff. But yeah, like you said, you can still put your own stamp on that. It's not just, I followed every single step and made it exactly like this other guy made it or whoever.
Yeah, no, that's a common
putting your own stamp on it. And I would say like this day and age, like even just outside of this class, even if you are following a tutorial, I highly encourage you to shoot your own footage on your phone. Like there's almost no excuse nowadays. We have cameras right on our phone that are pretty decent.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was starting, we didn't have that. I didn't have that on my cell phone.
Right.
I bought a camera. I didn't have DSLRs even.
Right. You were talking about these hyped up DV cameras that you were working with back then. Yeah.
Right. So I would encourage you to like shoot some of your own stuff and experiment, even with some tutorial knowledge, and then applying that to like kind of your own shot design is very beneficial. And honestly, that's how I taught myself a lot of stuff that I know.
Do you find the adage that your reel is only as good as the worst shot on it to be true? Like, do you think that if like whatever's the weakest shot on the reel becomes kind of like the red flag baseline for judging the work?
I don't know. I guess I've never believed that, but I'm not sure.
Well, like you're looking at a reel and you see a shot that's like, ooh, yeah, they didn't really quite nail that one.
Yeah, to me, no. Like I'm not going to judge the whole reel just by that shot, or the majority of it at least. To me, that's probably like, okay, maybe they don't fully understand about putting a reel together. Maybe
okay, so you give them a little bit more of a break. Interesting.
I would, because if I'm impressed with like 75% of it, we'll say.
Sure.
And then maybe 20% or 25% is kind of lacking. Or like, wait a second, that probably just means they didn't need to add that shot.
Yeah, exactly.
That was an older shot, maybe, you know?
Yeah, that's where the 45-second reel would have been just as good as the 1 minute one.
At least I'll give the benefit of the doubt for something like that, at least in the beginning, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, any last thoughts? I feel like this has been a treasure trove of information here, and I really thank you for it.
Oh, thanks. Hopefully it's useful.
Do you have anything else you want to throw in before we sign off?
One thing I will point out as far as like don't limit yourself to, you know, which is, I think that's probably why when someone's taking this class is because they really aren't limiting themselves. They're learning this new tool set, visual effects, to help their design work. But I just really want to, emphasize that, because I think that is so helpful. And I'll just point to this movie that I did work on, the Native Son one, that I did a bunch of work on. There's actually a sequence where there's a lot of green screen driving stuff in there. But there's a sequence where most of the plates for the background plates for that were like bought, stock wise. The film didn't have, I guess, the money and the time to like shoot their own background plates. Yeah. So we bought some stock stuff, but there's some stuff that just wasn't working, right? Like I didn't think it was that great and the quality wasn't good enough. So I actually just had my own DSLR and my little camera rig. Oh wow! Tiny little thing. Shot like 18 car plates myself just around St. Louis, and used those instead and got that into film. But the reason I point that out is because it's because I've done camera stuff, cinematography things, and learned about that and shot stuff like that just for fun. But also knowing that I could incorporate that into the work I was doing to elevate it to another level. But I never even would have gone to that conclusion, right? If I hadn't done those things previously. Yeah. Like I never would have been like, oh, I could just shoot some of my own stuff, Yeah. Especially like on a feature. It's like, oh, someone else has to do that, right?
Well, and that can can
So on a feature, yes. That can be tricky as far as
but also, I mean, so relevant questions here. Did you charge for the service?
I did.
Okay, good. That's good. Because the more pro the person you talk to is, the more insistent they are. Like, yep, if you brought in your own equipment, not to mention the time you spent on it, but you're probably already, you are billing for your time and you are saving yourself time by not having to work with shitty elements, but, and polish the turd, as it were. But yes, that is even, and it is tricky when you're also the one recommending it. Right. Lousy clients would probably suspect you of trying to upsell them on,
That's true.
Vacuum cleaner attachments or something. But that
really came from a spot where looking like in review process, myself and stage director and other people weren't quite happy with something. So I was like,
yeah. And you had that trust.
Exactly. In that too.
And you're a known element. Actually, I mean, that in a facility, sometimes you have to cover your tracks on this stuff. Like if you're going to shoot a practical to stand in for what was expected to be a 3D sim, you may not want to share that as long as the client's happy with the result.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, just because people, I don't know, people sometimes respect the wrong stuff or expect the wrong stuff or.
No, that's true. And for something like that, like the end result is all that matters anyways.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and in a way as always, but it's cool that you've got you enjoy the process too. I think it comes through loud and clear. So thanks for talking about that.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, awesome. This was great. Yeah, thanks so much. I think we're gonna have links. Where do you like people to find you at VFX Daily? Is that kind of your home?
Yeah, there's that. I mean, Twitter, VFX Daily. On Instagram, I'm Josh VFX.
Oh, excellent. Cool. Thanks for chatting.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate it, Mark. And gotta say, your book was the first one I bought when I started learning After Effects.
Oh, I'm honored.
So there you go. Yeah, it's very, very helpful.
All right, Josh. Talk to you later. I gotta hand it to Josh. I've met others who've succeeded pretty independently, but he clearly has the gift of connecting with people who aren't in his geographic vicinity, working creatively with them, and let's face it, he's got the skills to pay the bills. So I haven't met anyone doing exactly what Josh does, but he definitely makes it feel possible to kind of do whatever you want, wherever you want. I hope you enjoyed it.